All right, back here Monday morning, back on the C10 or the crew cab. We ended up, Mike ended up coming by and dropping off some metal for, basically I had made this out of like 18 gauge or 20 gauge, and it just isn't thick enough, I don't think. So we went and had some 16 gauge cut out on the plas table and basically dropped these off at a friends of ours and had them cut and, or not bent, but had them break the metal. I basically made this little template here, and he nailed it as far as getting these together. The idea is to splice it in here, which I wanted to do anyway, and I wasn't so worried about this in here because I want to splice it in even here and kind of keep that factory looking seam there. So that's kind of the idea on that. I'm gonna add a couple more braces, and I think I might add a turnbuckle. Basically it's one of these things right here. You spin it one way, both of these go out. You spin it the other way, both of these go in. And I want to put that from here somewhere to here to try to be able to get the back of the cab and the front of the cab, basically pinch them out or push them away, and then maybe even something like here. If I can get something welded in there, then hopefully by the end of the day I can at least get the top of that rain gutter, door jamb support, whatever you want to call that, in. And that'd be one huge step in getting these doors dialed in. So it's kind of the plan. Alright, got that cut out of there. Got my turnbuckle. So basically if I turn this, I should be able to pull the back of that cab in or out. Got that kind of just tacked in there. Basically what's going on now is I've got the B-pillar loose. I've got a couple turnbuckles. Basically I can kind of do this to kind of push this back and forth. That one down there should kind of push this back and forth since we have nothing up here, and I've still got my upper one in there. So that's probably the only need. The top one is that piece of metal there's tacked in there. But what I was trying to look at was I made this piece because I cut it, built this piece here, and then put this piece in, and come to find out it's about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch lower here. Now I just built this to match the old roof, the old gutter, so it was off. I didn't really realize that, but you can kind of see we're pretty close here. You can see we're definitely off up here and getting closer back here. So I'm gonna have to cut the door in here and lift that up a little bit, which you can almost kind of see, like almost looks like that right there, kind of bows down. Here, my camera pick that up. I kind of remember looking at this thing before, like on just from across the shop, and thinking that that thing did have kind of a goofy like bow, or maybe it went straight and then up. I'm not really sure. It kind of just always didn't look right. I can kind of figure it out now. Now I'm kind of figuring out why, and I think that this thing, maybe when they welded it in, it sunk, or maybe I don't really know what's going on, but it's not right. So I've got a pretty damn good line here. So I've got to kind of work this over a little bit, get these two here in here to match, and work these two over, and then this is straight because it's got about 5 different bends in it. So I don't, like bent down a whole bunch of 90-degree bends. So it's going to be pretty straight and pretty strong. We got a good line going across here, so I'm kind of thinking that I need to mess with that rear door, and then also I'm going to make one of these. I made this before, back with the old roof, and it was going to be the exact length that I needed, and I'm about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch too short. So I'm making another one and drawing it out. Basically going to make it a little bit longer than the one that I've got, about that much longer, a little over 1/4. So it's 18 1/4 inches tall. So I want to get to that. So hopefully I can get that front of the door cut, raised up, which I think we got a pretty good straight line this way, so I'm not horribly worried about that, other than trying to maybe keep this somewhat 90 degrees, but also make this so it fits in between where our doors come up. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. I'm going to get rid of that chunk of junk and then hopefully build a new one. I'm making this out of 18 gauge, so it's going to be a little thicker. Yeah, and we're going to just keep trucking along on this bad boy. Down and brought this up to where it was even with the old pillar, and then when I put this all together, this pillar, and made this piece, you know, basically tied in here. I know this is pretty straight because we got so many breaks, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different 90 degree breaks, so it should be pretty straight. It's really hard to bend something that's got that many breaks in it without having to really try. But where I'm going with that is I ended up adding a little about 3/8 of an inch of this, bringing this up to get this gap here a lot more even. You know, it looks like that kind of dipped down, but I'm going to hammer that a little bit. Putting a straight edge on this. This was all pretty straight. So I kind of thinking that they just threw these things together. So I've got this piece. Basically, I'm going to set it and tie this into here and get that all dialed. Basically, we want to kind of, instead of going all the way back here, we're going to go to here, and then we're going to smooth this out. So I think that'll look better anyway, and I'm going to work this part of the gutter over here to kind of make it look like this. Instead of having that seam, so this line here will just be 90 to step into that door jamb. So that's kind of the idea. I'm going to go ahead and try and see if I can get that tacked in together and make some forward progress on this thing. Huh. Wish me luck. Finally getting this thing, I think, some forward progress. We went ahead and put this piece here in, our upper rail, brought it all the way out to here. We're gonna have to fudge this rail. You can see it's kind of dented up. Somebody picked the old cab up with a strap, so kind of tweaked on that. But I do have to tweak on this. We did cut this in, and it ended up using like this piece for here, which I've got another door, so I'm gonna cut this piece out and probably cut it somewhere in here. Kind of redo this. Basically lined it up to the old cab, and the old pillar kind of went down on both sides, so it's kind of explaining why I had a good gap on that and not so much on this. So I'm not worried about this gap as much as I am this gap here, because I'm going to be messing with this rear door. But I got a good gap there, a pretty nice gap there, and a nice good gap there. I did have to whack this door one to bring this over. It was kind of bowed out a little bit, but I got a real nice line here. Real nice line in here, and then a real nice line in here, a real nice gap here. So, and then our rocker's got a nice line across here. So I'm actually pretty stoked the way that front of that door is turning out. We did go ahead and primer in between here, and then shot some primer up in there, just to be sure if I box that in that I've got some kind of protection on that bare metal. And yes, I took lacquer thinner and cleaned it really well, and then took a red Scotch-Brite, scuffed it up real good, so hopefully our paint will stick to it. And yeah, same thing we did on the inside of the rocker. So we're just using that welds in. He pulls weld through. Basically, it has copper in the primer, so you can weld through it. And that's pretty good so far, so I'm just going to keep trucking away on this thing. We got our bars here. I can go ahead and cut this around. I got a turnbuckle in there. Since I'm going to be messing, I put this section of the cab in, and then gotta be messing in here so I can adjust that back just a hair if I need to. But I need to adjust that door forward just a smidge. So probably gonna work on that. I'm just gonna keep trucking away on this, see if I can make some more progress on it. So keep watching.